are joined by a man who is well known around these parts. He's just a great guy. He's just a great husband. He's a great dad. He's a great football player. First time the man touched the ball, touchdown pass for the Falcons. Last time the man touched the ball for the Falcons, touchdown for the man. And guess what? He now moves on to a new part of his broadcasting career, and he's going to call it touchdown. He's Matt Ryan. He's joining us here in the locker room on the Fan 680, 93.7 FM. Matt, good morning. How are you doing this fine Thursday morning?
I'm doing great. No game plan meetings in the morning, no early morning lift or anything like that. So just coming in and hanging out with you guys. But
you did have some duties this morning. Let's not get carried away.
That's right. Drop off duty at school.
Nice.
Right. Making sure. So we had an after school program. That's the first day. My son Marshall's doing it, and it was a tough drop off. I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah, I didn't want to get out, and I'm like, hey, you got to go. I got stuff to do. This is one of the first days of the summer. I actually have things going on, so. You got to get out and go, and he did it, but it was tough.
I don't know what your favorite play of all time or what favorite play call you like, but you just ran one of the greatest audibles in the history of this show. You brought in breakfast.
Yeah.
Because this is the breakfast show, and we don't mess around with that. So
he was early,
that.
too.
Yes, on time, and brought in breakfast as you dropped your kid off. So that's great stuff. Talk about where you get ready to go. It's a little different from you, for you, as you get ready to head to the broadcast booth. You get ready to call some games on a regular basis, and I'm sure you're excited about that. You've already had a little pregame and preseason experience with that. How are you preparing as you get ready to put the headsets on and start calling games for the first time in your career?
The preparation's a lot different. You know, I was going into it being like, okay, I've got my normal week that I always did playing, and turns out that doesn't really translate to actually calling the game. You know, it's been a lot of prep of getting the board right, trying to get it organized the way I want to, making sure the names are laid out. That's probably the biggest difference, I would say, is like as players, you know, you knew a handful of guys' names that you might know, but you knew numbers, right? And so you might be going into it like, hey, we got to stay away from 37 or go at 22. Well, you can't say that. You know, you've got to be dialed in with the names. And so that's probably been the biggest, point that's been different. But for the most part, I like it because it gets me back into kind of my comfort zone of watching film, looking at defenses, looking at offenses, seeing how they're going to try and attack each other, and then hopefully being able to describe it in a way that people can understand.
So you're working with Tiki Barber, and your play-by-play guy is?
Andrew Catalan.
All right, and somebody on the field,
AJ Ross is down on the field.
So you've got a chance to work the Carolina game against Detroit, I believe. We didn't play anybody, but you got to see Carolina up close and personal. Talk to Frank Reich, who you're familiar with from Indy. What your thoughts on that team and what maybe their biggest strength and weakness, having watched them and studied them a little bit?
Yeah, I think going into that game, for me, watching their preseason stuff, the biggest question mark they have is their offensive line. And, are they going to be able to, pull it together to be able to protect Bryce Young? And I don't have the answer to that. It wasn't like anything in that third preseason game that we watched changed my opinion. I think they're going to struggle early on until they find their footing, partly because maybe they're not deep enough at that position group, but also partly because it's a new system coming in. And I think for offensive linemen, more so than like wide receivers or quarterbacks, I really feel like as you're learning new scheme, new protections, new run game, it takes time for those guys to come together, and offensive line is all about the guy next to you, passing things off in time, in rhythm. And I think, it's going to take a little bit of time. So as Falcons fans this weekend, I think it's one of those things. You see this revamped defense, right, that they've put a lot of money into, a lot of effort into. They got to go
jealous?
get out.
Are you jealous that the Falcons spent a boatload of free agency money on the defense for the first time in freaking forever? And it looks like they might have a team that can be in the top 15, which would have been nice for a lot of years.
Yeah, I think I played with one, maybe one defense.
2017.
Yeah. So in the top, 15 of defense. But as a fan of them, I'm excited for them because I really do think that, if you play good defense, it keeps you in the game every week. It gives you a chance, right? It might not lead to a Super Bowl necessarily, but it's going to give you the opportunity to be competitive every week. So I'm excited to see them play this season. I'm also excited about their offensive weapons.
Yeah.
I really look at it and I'm saying, okay, you look at the wide receiver positions. I like Drake. I think he's
He's
big,
really solid.
really smooth, really solid, good hands, physical, big body. Kyle Pitts, it's year 3, year 3 for him now, and so it's time. It's time to. I've always thought as
It's time
quarterbacks.
to do what he did with you in year 1.
Well,
Isn't that crazy? That's hard to even imagine. You were here 2 years ago, getting a tight end like him, 1,000 yards, first time in a long time. And what was it like throwing him? And what can Desmond do to use him effectively?
Well, I think the beauty of what they have going now is there's, in my opinion, more than what we had in 2021. So there's, he doesn't have to be the entire focal point of what they're doing. And I think that's going to free him up. I think it gets him some opportunities, over the middle on guys that can't cover, whether it's linebacker, safeties, or whatever. And I think that for him, that's a massive advantage. But I also like Bijan out of the backfield. Right. I was up at training camp, watched him practice a little bit. He's going to run the ball first. There's no question about it. And that's what Art wants to do. Mm-hmm. But to me, the thing that excites me is his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. He was running routes in one-on-ones the day I was up there, and he looked like a wideout. Right. And to me, that part's really exciting. I also like Matt Collins, who comes in. Like, we got big guys. They've got we do not have big guys. They have big guys.
No, it's we. You can say we.
They have big guys that are on the outside that can kind of take the pressure off, and I think they can use a lot of different people. CP still there. I think I saw they listed him as like Joker or whatever that means. Joker.
It's
Jack of all
Arthur
trades.
Smith's sense of humor coming out with D-Led.
Yeah.
Is that was about.
So he's the Joker, but
I'm joking.
I really do think they can use all these guys in a lot of different ways. So the skill positions for me are exciting. I know they shored up the offensive line. The offensive line played a lot better last year. And so, I think Desmond's got a chance, and he's got some really good targets to go operate with.
Former Atlanta Falcon, 2016 NFL MVP, and CBS analyst Matt Ryan joining us here in the locker room on the Fan 680 93.7 FM.
Matt, you talked about offensive line with Carolina, and you played with some good offensive lines. You had some years that, let's be honest, they weren't very good. What's it like as a quarterback, and what advice would you give Bryce Young, potentially playing with an O-line that might not be up to par?
That ball needs to come out.
Yeah.
That to me, especially early in games, when you've got a line that you're unsure of, I think you got to build confidence with them early in games. And so, I'd be hammering away during the week as we're putting the top 15, top 20 plays in. Hey, let's make sure we got some movement stuff. Let's make sure we got some quick game screens, whatever it is. Let's build some confidence for those boys up front, because to me, it's the less you let them get home early in a game, the more it frustrates the defense too. And they start pressing, they start doing different things, and it just allows those guys up front to settle in. So to me, it's all about, game planning well, making sure the play calling's solid coming out of the gate, and allowing those guys to get into a rhythm.
Matt, who does Arthur Smith want to be at his core? I mean, what's his identity as a football coach offensively?
Well, I think to me, it's run the football. It is about establishing the run game, and then everything else falling in line off of that. But it's owning the line of scrimmage on the offensive side of the ball, and I really believe his philosophy is the same on the defensive side. And to me, I see them building a lot of what they've done in Tennessee, where he came from, where it's run the football, play really good defense, have some big targets on the outside that are physical and capable in the run game to go block, but then really drive the pass game through the play action pass. And so I think that's what he wants to build. I think it's the first team, that he's been able to put the pieces, right, the actual pieces that he wants, and so I'm excited to see them play this year.
What does Desmond Ridder need to do? He got the 4 games in at the end of last year, so it's not his first time out on the field, even though it's his first time taking over. But what are the things people say you can't win with a game manager? So what does he need to do to be a quarterback that can do his part to help the Falcons get to the postseason?
Well, I always kind of hate that game manager label, right? It's that is your job. To a certain extent, that is your job. It's to manage the situations of the game. And so for me, he's got to rely on the coaching staff on first and second down. I think that's their responsibility. Run the football, play action pass, get guys open for you on first and second down so you're able to stay in front. What he's got to do is he's got to deliver on third down and in the red zone. And to me, that's where you make your money as a quarterback. It's about converting third downs, making contested throws, giving guys opportunities to catch and run on third down, and then either extending plays or being super, super accurate in the red zone. And I think if he does a good job, puts all of his focus really in that area early in the season, and he gets comfortable in those type of situations, to me, that's a recipe for success.
Our favorite quarterback, Matt Ryan, joins us here in the locker room. We'll get into moving the chains in just a few minutes, and you can sit in with that and talk a little NFL across the league, which you should be familiar with. What do you think your role was your rookie year? Do you think you were in that mindset? I know your first play, if I'm not mistaken, is a skinny post, which is all about timing and accuracy, and Jank takes it to the house. But do you think your role in that system was kind of where Desmond's at today?
Absolutely. You know, I look back on it. I was rookie of the year in 2008. I think I had 16 touchdown passes and maybe 11 picks. Right. And it's like, that's not that good. You know, like that's half of what you're going into a season now looking for.
Right.
And really double in terms of the picks. And so it was about game management. It was about learning on the fly, you know, and I think the thing we did well, and Mike Mularkey was our offensive coordinator at the time, was he didn't put too much on me. You know, a lot of it was handing the ball off to Mike Turner, you know, trying to give big wide receivers that we had at the time, and Jank, and Roddy, opportunities to go make plays on balls. And, you know, we didn't start off early in the season throwing the ball 30 times a game. I mean, I think we might have thrown 14 passes. I think I was 11 of 14 in my first game. And crazy. So I just don't think you want to put too much on them. Honestly, I would have liked to have seen them play him more last year.
Yeah.
You know, and I said this to Dave Ragone. I saw him during the offseason and was talking to him, and I was like, you know,
quarterback coach for the Falcons now?
Yeah, he's an offensive coordinator, and he works with the quarterbacks directly. And I said to him, you know, hindsight is always there. I know you guys go into a season thinking it's going to shake out one way. It doesn't. I would have liked to have seen him play 8 games, 9 games, and get a lot of those kinks ironed out. And you come into this season with a much larger sample size and a better understanding of some of the things that he does well and doesn't do well.
We asked Arthur Smith in training camp about, because the 1 year that you played with him, you guys didn't really play in preseason at all. I don't even know if you took a snap during that preseason. Last year he played starter. So we were anticipating this year, all right, Desmond Ridder's got to play some preseason. They got 18 or 19 snaps as a starting offense. Do you feel that preseason does enough to maybe get guys ready for a regular season?
I don't think currently. I told this to Art when he came. I told this to Frank when I was in Indy. I told this to Dan Quinn. I like to play in the preseason because I always felt like I want to feel the pressure around me. I want to feel the pocket collapse. I want to get hit a little bit prior to the season starting. And I get from the coach's perspective or the front office perspective, hey, we got to get to week 1 with our guys out there. But I also think you only get 17 chances now, right? And so number 1 is just as important as number 17, and you've got to tick off these wins along the way. So I always want it, you know, somewhere about 3/4, close to a game worth of reps during the preseason to be able to kind of just get my feel for the pass rush around me, take a few hits. The production didn't really matter to me, but it was more about just being out there, getting play calls, getting the operation going so that you feel really comfortable week 1.
When you look at the overall turnover of the NFC South, I mean, it's just a new era in just what we're going to see around here. New quarterbacks, new coaches. Tampa, they're probably going to have some turnover next year as well. Just your thoughts on the long-term possible prognosis of the Atlanta Falcons. If Arthur Smith and this defense, what Ryan Nielsen has coming in here, what it could potentially be if this thing hits the ground running this year and they just build on some good habits.
It's wide open. You know, it really is. It's wide open. But I think there was such stability in the NFC South, particularly at the quarterback position in New Orleans, in Atlanta, for a long time in Carolina. Tampa was the one place, for that decade of the 2010s where it was kind of a revolving door. But then they had a 3-year stretch where you have Tom Brady. And so you think about, first ballot Hall of Famers in Tom Brady and Drew Brees, Cam Newton in Carolina. For the better part of a decade, that quarterback position was really, really stable in the NFC South. And now it's completely different. You got Baker Mayfield in Tampa. You got Derek Carr coming over in New Orleans. You got a rookie in Bryce Young up in Carolina and Desmond Ridder here. So you wonder if, Atlanta and Carolina can stabilize that position with the 2 young players, and then if those 2 other spots are going to have turnover for the next handful of years. But I think it's wide open, and I think Falcons fans have every reason to be optimistic about what this team can do this year.
Well, we're optimistic. We thank you for joining us. Matt and Ryan going to be here until 9:20 today. No, he's not going to
kicking him out. I thought I was out.
Why are you kicking him out already?
No, because I saw you looking at the clock. So
we got to get some business done.
I didn't want to have him see you at your worst because you have
outta
a
here,
problem
dude.
looking at the clock. But now.
Did he ever have a problem, Matt, when you guys played together, that if a meeting was in 10 minutes,
The huddle was too long.
I mean, if we got to go to commercial, we could have 5 minutes till commercial, and I look at Finn face to face, and he's looking up, and he's looking at me, and he's looking. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Honestly, we're very similar in that respect.
All right.
Like, if we had a meeting or something that starts at 9:20, you better be in the meeting about 9:10, and we can BS and kind of chill out for that time before. But I always get anxious when I'm running late or anything like that. I don't know. Maybe it's the way we're professional.
Well,
that's it. Old school.
Apparently, we're not professional.
One
over
segment
here.
on this show we will not be late for, and it's this one right here. Don't worry about the clock.
There's no one more reliable in a big game situation.
Oh, my knee, my calf, my foot, my rib.
Brian Finneran is moving the chains.
My pride.
Presented by Georgia Pack and Load. Move the smart way. Move the Pack and Load way. Call 1-800-800-MOVE or online at gapackandload.com.
A couple news and notes real quick. Nick Bosa in San Francisco signs a monster deal of 5 years, $170 million. Makes him the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. Aaron Donald, just south of him in L.A., is making $31.7. Bosa's deal is $34 million a year. Tyreek Hill's got $30 million. T.J. Watt, $28. That's what you do when you have 15-plus sacks in 2 of your first 4 seasons in the NFL, and you absolutely wreck game plans for offenses. When you have a guy like that you're facing, Matt, what does it do for the offense, and how much is a game plan focused around him?
Well, the week is dominated by trying to figure out how you're going to pass protect. All of the other stuff doesn't matter. You can talk about route concepts, all of these things, and they can look great against the scheme. But you got to protect number one, and so it's a headache, and that's why these guys, that's why these guys are making what they make, because it affects the game so much, and business is booming right now for pass rushers.
No doubt about it. Chris Jones holding out hopes that he can sign a new deal with the Kansas City Chiefs. Says if he does get that raise he's looking for, he'll be ready to rock and roll this evening. Has not happened yet. Travis Kelce as well, going to work out on that knee this morning. I told Matt, we were talking about it a little bit this morning off the air, and what did you say to me?
I wouldn't play him. But
Okay,
that's
and
just
then what did I say to you?
You would have played.
Hey, Matt Ryan would have played.
Or at least try to play.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you got to try to play. It was a little interesting, Matt, that he had a workout this morning.
He's going to at some point this morning.
This morning instead of working out
Right before the game.
Right before the game.
Probably they just want to get their lineup solidified early and see how he was feeling when he was going to wake up. You probably don't change much from how you're feeling in the morning until that evening. And so I think it's coaching staff and front office wanting to make sure that they have people in place, give whoever the backup is an opportunity to know whether or not he's going to be taking 40, 50 snaps, something like that.
It'll be Noah Gray and Blake Bell, 2 guys we are not very familiar.
Dozier, former Oklahoma quarterback / fullback.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Why I know that I have no idea.
He's their Franks. What's our guy's name?
Felipe Franks. He's no longer with us.
Thank you very much. That was fun to watch. Psych. Here's Arthur Smith, head coach of the Falcons, talking about Bijan Robinson and what he expects out of him.
He's excited. It's the first big test, a real stressful environment. He passed them all so far, and he's exactly who I thought he was. And in some ways, he's even more mature than I realized in handling expectation and pressure, because that's not easy. It gets harder and harder, especially, with everything at your fingertips now. I mean, if you live through your screen, it could be a toxic wasteland. And I have to give Bijan a lot of credit.
You do. I'm excited. So having a running back that you already talked about, looked like a receiver, runs people over, cuts on a dime. In the small sample size we saw him playing the 10 plays in the preseason, whatever it was, he looked legit. What does it mean for a quarterback like Desmond to have a running back that can do it all?
I think it's huge. Being able to get the ball out quick as a young quarterback and find guys that can make plays after the ball's in their hand. You might only have to throw a little flat route or something like that. You could end up for 30. I think those kind of things are big. I remember talking to Steve Sarkisian, who had him at Texas and was with us with the Falcons for a while, and he was saying, like, this dude, trust me, he is a real NFL legit player. And so I love him. I like that pick.
No doubt about it. The guy they got to face is Bryce Young for the Carolina Panthers on Sunday at 1 o'clock. So the Falcons will face off against him. What is your approach to the season?
It's definitely exciting. It's a blessing to be here. With it around the corner, it's surreal. But at the same time, there's so much energy and focus that just goes into the game plan, goes into trying to prepare to get ready. Myself, us as a team, we're all in that mindset. So of course, I'm super excited, and it's definitely a blessing to be in this situation. But obviously it's a results-based business, and we want to have success, and for us to be able to have that, we have to earn that right.
Do you think his height will be a problem
expect a
at
lot
all?
of pressure up the middle.
Yeah.
That's going to be the game plan.
Get your hands up.
Get your hands
He's
up.
a little guy.
And make sure you're in his face inside, and make sure you're going to try to, muddle rush on the outside to keep him in the pocket.
How much?
He's just a little fella,
How beneficial is it to be 6'4", Matt, as opposed to 5'10" as an NFL quarterback?
I'm going to steal his line. Like, this is the only height I knew. And so I always thought it was good,
Right.
because you could see those things. I think it helps over the middle of the field. So when you're delivering the ball over the middle of the field, whether it's seam routes, basic crosses, shallow crosses, the stuff that's in front of the lineman in that, 5 to 15 yard range where you can't see over it if you're a little smaller. I always thought that part was, helpful, but I watched Drew Brees do it to us over the middle for, 15 years, basically.
Through his face mask when he was getting dropping back.
I don't know.
It's the craziest thing.
Because we never put him on his back the way he should have.
He was awesome.
What do you think would be more effective? Sending some heat, confusing him with some coverages, a mix of all of it, or just do what you have to do? I'm
Just
thinking.
play vanilla.
No, you can't play
don't wanna
vanilla.
do that.
Yeah, I'm asking him.
I think you do what Joe said. Collapse the pocket, internal pressure, push that thing from the center, and kind of contain the outsides, and then squeeze him in that spot. One of the things I watch with him is his footwork is very smooth, very slow, but he doesn't get a lot of depth. I mean, he's always in great position to throw, and he can deliver it.
Interesting.
But we'll see if that kind of stays as that pocket starts to collapse. It gets muddy around you. And so I know Arthur Smith talks about that all the time. Collapsing the pocket, making it uncomfortable for the quarterback, getting stuff in his feet, in front of him. I expect that to be the plan for them.
Interesting situation going on in Cleveland with kind of a rebuilt team, some really good defensive players, some weapons on offense, and Deshaun Watson getting a full off season, had a little action last year. Here's Deshaun Watson thinking about if he can get back to his regular self, the guy he was back in 2019.
I don't want to return as a guy at Houston. I want to be better than that guy. So what I was 2023, 3 years ago, I'm not the same guy. So I feel like I've evolved to a new level, and I'm ready to be able to show that. Last year was a tricky time where, I was learning everything, but, I don't want to just get caught up on, hey, Houston this, Houston that. I had a lot of fun, a lot of success in Houston, but I want to have that success and start something new in Cleveland.
Yeah, hopefully for Deshaun, he got all the kinks worked out.
Take it easy over there. You think Cleveland will be a good team this year? Surprise team maybe, or not so much?
I don't know. That division's tough.
It is.
And so to me, if you're going to get over that hump, you're going through Cincinnati, you're going through Baltimore, you're going through Pittsburgh. I don't see it.
All right. That, my friends, is moving the chains.
Fantastic moving the chains. Will be continued to be joined by Matt Ryan in studio. He'll be here until 9:20 this morning.
Matt, I want to ask you were talking about dropping off the kids today and difficult getting them out of the car. I've said as a society, and yours are different because you have young kids, and you're supposed to drop them off as a dad and, enjoy that time with them. I drive past this stupid middle school in Gwinnett County. Middle school. These are kids who are 12, 13, 14. And every afternoon, there's like 200 parents picking up kids. Like, what is going on? Do you deal with that going through the drop-off line where it's like just a long line, a lot of people there?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And yeah, sorry about that. I screwed up.
Don't do that again. First broadcast on CBS.
Don't do that game
cough button. Yeah, 100%. I often wonder. I haven't had much going on this offseason. You know, so we got pick up at like 2:30 or something like that.
Carpool.
And I'm like, all right, I'll get there like 1:45, see if I can be first in line. And people are there in front of me, and I'm like, dude, I got nothing going on. What are you doing? You know, like, what do you have going on? And so to me, I'm always shocked at how early people get there. But what happened to the school bus?
Thank you.
I feel like my formative years,
100%.
most of the stuff I learned in my life happened on the bus, going to school. 100%. Finishing homework on the ride into school, trying to like copy someone's homework, whatever it was. I feel like I learned a lot on the bus and grew up a ton, and I feel like it's something that's been stripped from kids.
Your parents raised, or I guess, in a different tax bracket than your kids are going to be in, which plays a factor, I would imagine.
Well,
I was on a bus too.
I mean, I don't know. What else to say? I love my parents, and they did great.
Of course they did.
But yeah, times are just a little different.
I mean, it's not just the tax bracket thing. Where I live is not in y'all's tax bracket, and it's everybody. I'm like, what do you people do where it's 3:30 and you're lined up for a 4:30 middle school pickup, and they have the whole road blocked? I've never seen anything like it.
Have you thought about that stuff down the road? Keith Brookings said years ago he wasn't going to buy his kids new cars. They were going to get, probably his old car. Have you thought about that stuff as your kids start to grow? What kind of stuff they're going to be, or you're going to be facing as a parent of a teenager one day?
Yeah, I think so. I heard Jerry Seinfeld say this one time, right? And so Jerry Seinfeld has done really well. But he told his kids something to the extent of, hey, listen, I'm rich. You're not. So
That's hilarious.
It was delivered really well. But I think, you do. You think about that as a parent of, how they've got to live the life that they're living, right? And the experiences that they have. And so you do. You weigh the things that you want to do with them. You try and instill the values that, I think are important, and my wife, thinks is important. And so we try and do the best we can, just like everybody else. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I think everybody's going through that process, raising kids, of trying to make them the best people they can be.
So you said you had a kind of a quiet off season. Did you have any kind of darkness retreats or anything?
No? I didn't go to like an actual darkness retreat, but I did. I kind of uncut the cord for a little while, which
obviously you didn't respond to me for a while. I know that.
Yeah. Well, that's for other reasons, but no, I did. I think in trying to, process everything that was going on, and obviously a transition time in my life of figuring things out, I thought it was good to kind of get quiet for a little bit. Didn't do the entire darkness retreat by myself, but just try and figure things out and figure out making the next steps and what's best, for myself, what's best for my family, what's best for the kids, what's best for all of us, my wife, and feel like that was probably a good thing for me.
What do you put bad in your body? Speaking of dark retreats, you're looking good, man. You have tacos, anything, double cheeseburgers, is there anything bad that you have a vice? I want to have this tonight.
Well, listen, I think we all have a few vices. I like to have a drink every once in a while, and pizza. Pizza is. I feel like I grew up in Philadelphia, so it's pizza and sandwiches for me.
Okay.
So any kind of good pizza, or like in hoagies, we call them subs down here, whatever. But that kind of stuff for me is where I lose control sometimes. Yeah, Wawa, solid.
Wawa's like a little convenience store where you can get some unbelievable sandwiches, especially late night when you've
it's
had
a lot more than a convenience.
A little bit overrated.
Joe, come on, Joe.
Digital Joe.
Real quick, I want you to hear this from Aaron Rodgers, who's a little quirky. I don't know what your relationship with him is like. He seems like he might be a cool guy. Well, he used to be. He seemed like he was a cool guy to hang out with. He got a little strange. And then during Hard Knocks this year has kind of, I think, brought a lot of people back on his side to see what he goes through, the way he processes stuff, the way he talks to people. I think it's been super entertaining. Well, most recently, he had this to say about seeing something in the sky.
I was making my way to bed, and I was getting down to bed. I heard this alarm in the distance going off. So I got up, walked downstairs, walked outside. We saw this tremendously large object moving through the sky, and it was like a scene out of Independence Day. We just saw this incredibly large object, and froze, as anybody would. That got me into researching more about UFOs. The siren or alarm had been from a nuclear power plant, which is about 9 miles away. And if you know anything about UFOs, there's a lot of sightings around nuclear energy, around volcanoes, around power plants, whatever the hell it was, I don't know. But it was definitely unidentified. It was definitely flying. It was definitely a large object.
Oh, man.
He's good. Matt Ryan's good. His face did not change one bit. Listening to
Not
all of that,
surprised by
he
that
did
nonsense.
not change a bit.
Well, I got to tell you, I had Matt Schaub in the quarterback room with me for 5 years.
Yep.
And Matt Schaub is a massive conspiracy theorist.
Really?
Really?
And
Did I
so,
know this?
yes, it was great because Schaubby would get into the building at like 4:30 in the morning. It was unbelievable. I've never seen anybody arrive to the building as early as he would. But I would get in, to the quarterback room, whatever time it was, and we always had like an hour before we were getting started with anything. And he would have his phone out or iPad out, and he'd have some new thing that he was reading about. And so I would hear stuff like this probably 2-3 times a week about different conspiracies,
hilarious.
different things. He never had a UFO sighting. I never heard him say that, but that's quite the experience he had. I've never had anything like that.
You haven't had ayahuasca either.
Well,
That is very true.
Have a little
That's
something.
true. That's
I don't
true,
know.
yeah.
Who knows? He could be right. Maybe he saw what he saw. When we get back, we'll get through the litany of quarterbacks and the litany of coaches that will be certainly impressive to us as fans and to Matt Ryan in the NFL when we return here in the locker room on the Fan 680 93.7 FM. You guys, we were talking about we're going over your first few games. We were trying to see if you're going to ever be inside of Mercedes-Benz Stadium for a home game, but not bad. You get to see Kirk Cousins and an interesting team first out. How far out do you look down the road now that you have to look at football a little bit differently as an analyst now?
there, I did it twice.
That's strike two.
That's a
Four,
That's a
you're out.
5-yard penalty. That's a 5-yard penalty.
Get blank and set.
We know our schedule 3 weeks out at this point, and then it fluctuates, depending on how teams are playing and those kind of things. So week 1, you said it, we've got Minnesota and Tampa, which is great. Really good matchup, interesting matchup, a lot of good storylines. A defense that I know really well in Tampa, a lot of the same guys. I mean, you look at the linebacker position, their secondary, it's guys that I played against for a long time. And so that part will be interesting. I'm curious to see Baker Mayfield experiment and how that's going to go in Tampa. I know there's a lot of interest here in Atlanta about that being in division. And it'll be interesting. One of my college teammates, Brian Flores, is the defensive coordinator for the Vikings. Brian was a 5th-year senior when I was at BC, and he used to toss me around a little bit. We were like live and scout team back then. It's different times, but Brian,
My gosh.
Brian would just smash me. I'm like, oh, man. So it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that. And we got some good games early in the season. We'll see how it goes.
Did you pattern or have you watched like any of the analysts and tried to kind of take things that they've done and maybe take it into the broadcast with you?
I think the biggest, I've talked to a bunch.
Okay.
I think more so than trying to pattern anything you do, I think they want you to be yourself. And that's what they've told me right from the start. Use the experience that you have, the opinions that you have, the way that you see the game. That's what we want. We want to hear that. And so I've talked to them about preparation, what you're watching, how you go about getting ready for a team. To me, the biggest difference is my world was always so small. It was one defense we were going against. Right. And now it's really 4 units. It's 2 offenses, how they operate. It's 2 defenses, how they operate. And so the level of specificity is probably not as, it's not as detailed as when you were playing, but there's a more general view that you have to take, and that's what I've tried hard to get ready for.
Before the snap, Matt, where would your eyes be?
It's hard. So the first time I got in there's like 7 monitors that are laid out for you. And
as you're
then
watching the game?
Yeah, so you have the monitors set up in here, and you're standing, and these monitors are right below eye level, and then you're looking out over the field. And so it's to me, I'm still working through that. In the Carolina game, a lot of my eye level was down, above the monitors, down on the field, kind of seeing what was going on. But then you would find yourself talking about something that wasn't captured on the camera, for the viewers. And so it's like, well, it doesn't matter what I'm saying if it doesn't relate to what you're seeing. And so it's a balance, of getting used to checking the program monitor, seeing what's actually being broadcast, and then being able to, kind of shift maybe what you were thinking to what is actually being shown and talking about what's being shown. When
did you realize you wanted to do something like this? Was it during your playing career? Was it when you were home and Sarah had enough of you? Was it at what point did you realize this is something I want to get serious about and really try out?
When I got traded, it was the first. It was the first real moment for me of, hey, this is not going to be forever. And that. I mean, it as a player, but we're all delusional, and you think that it's always just going to continue to go the way that it has. And it was always something in the back of my head that I thought this could be interesting, could be fun. And after the season, I went out to the Super Bowl and I met with a bunch of the different networks and had the opportunity to sit down with them and, really enjoyed my time with all of them, but felt like it was a good match with CBS and, they were excited about it too. And so it really started when I got traded. Not that I wasn't all in on playing, but just, hey, there's going to be something after this. And, would that be something you're interested in? And then really went for it after the season ended last year.
Falcons legend and CBS color analyst Matt Ryan joining us here in the locker room on the Fan 680 93.7 FM. We were talking about the offensive pieces that Arthur Smith now has collected. His strategy has been, I'm using my draft picks early to get the offensive players I want. We'll use the money to buy and pay for the defense with some veterans. When you look at how you started, you came in there with some veterans on the squad when you got here. What do you think is going to be the thing or the elements that work out in the Falcons' favor if they do, the way that they've decided to construct this team?
Well, one of the things Arthur preaches all the time is it's a big man's game. That is from day one. That is one of the things he would say to us all the time. And so wherever they're adding pieces, they want size, and they've done that on the offensive side of the ball through the draft. You look at all of the pieces that they've drafted; they're big dudes. Finn would love them. They're over 6'2", right? They've got good size.
Smiling already.
Absolutely.
And then on the defensive side of the ball, I like adding veteran guys on the defensive side of the ball because the other thing that drives Arthur crazy is busts. He doesn't want to give anyone anything. And I think a lot of the times when you get veteran guys, there's just a tendency to bust less.
So tell the listener what a bust might be.
Yeah, so a bust would be, a missed assignment. And so on offense, a missed assignment, can be rough. It can lead to a sack. It could lead to a run for a loss. It could, whatever, an incompletion, whatever. Maybe an interception, maybe those kind of things. But on defense, a bust is brutal because one guy off on the defensive side of the ball, out of position, not doing their responsibilities, costs everyone. And that leads to explosive plays. And that's what you're looking for as an offense. It's let me get somebody out of position. Let me take advantage of somebody out of position and try and create these explosive plays and touchdowns.
You went against Ryan Nielsen a bunch, and he's the new defensive coordinator for the Falcons. What does he bring, and how much of a challenge was it as a quarterback trying to attack his defense?
Yeah, I think, him and his tutelage under Dennis Allen, to me, they're aggressive, and they're going to be physical. And that's what they preach. They're going to be physical through the tackle. They're going to be physical up front. And they're disciplined. They give you a bunch of different looks, but they really play the same core things over and over and over, and they play it well. And I think it matches up with what Arthur Smith wants to do from a philosophical standpoint. They talk about the illusion of complexity, right? Where we're going to line up maybe a little different, but we're going to play our same stuff over and over and over and make you think we're doing different things, but we're actually doing the same thing over and over. And I think that's what they did in New Orleans for a long time.
Broad brush painting, what do you see when you see these quarterbacks? Trevor Lawrence, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts. I mean, the NFL is really in a good place, one with just the skill set that people have, but also the star power that they're going to have every single time you turn on a game.
The depth at the quarterback position right now is probably as good as it's ever been. And you look at the AFC in particular, I mean, it is every week you're going against guys. And so that part is difficult. I think the NFC is a little more wide open. Not that Jalen Hurts was unbelievable last season, but just the depth I don't think is the same as in the AFC. And so as Falcons fans, that's got to have you fired up because you're not going against the same – that list you said, I mean, that's really heavy AFC dominated. And so it really gives you a chance every week in the NFC.
We were talking kind of off the air, some of the fun things, like some of your favorite players to play alongside. We see Bijan in here. I know you would have loved to have a Bijan Robinson. Who was your favorite Falcon running back to play alongside?
I think probably Mike Turner early in my career, just because he basically did my job for me. It was turn around, hand the ball off, and see what happens. But I was lucky. I mean, we had Mike Turner early on, and his production was through the roof. But then I had Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman, and that combination of the two was a really nice fit in the scheme that we had. Their ability, as it was later in my career, their ability to catch the ball out of the backfield and really take advantage of using them that way. I thought that was a special tandem that I got to play with.
When you look at the coaching that's going on, there's some coaches that come in some interesting situations and some coaches that might be on the hot seat. What's going on in Dallas? And Sean Payton now going out there to Denver, and they are expecting that he is going to be able to have the magic touch. Thoughts on some of these coaches around the NFL and how much coaching? I know Joe he has hammered it into me over the years how big coaching is, where coaches can make the difference between you being out of the playoffs or you holding up the Lombardi Trophy.
There's no question. To me, it's more important than any other professional sport, the coaching that you get. And whether it's game planning, whether it's developing players, whether it's identifying talent, it is so critical in this league to have continuity within the coaching staff and the time to build a roster the way that you want to do it, to be able to implement the schemes that you want. And so I think it's critical. You mentioned, Sean out in Denver. Going against him for a long time, he's solid, and he's got a personality that's a bit eccentric, as has been seen, during this offseason and preseason. But there's no mistake, this guy knows what he's doing, and I think he's going to do a nice job out there in Denver this year.
Matt, what's your thoughts on quarterback check with me's, audibles, those type things? As far as I played with a guy in Tampa, Brad Johnson, that told John Gruden, I want you to call it and run it. Call some plays that would I have to get up to the line of scrimmage, and I don't have to look at the defense. I don't have to be able to audible or run to a pass or a pass to a pass. What's your thought process? What do you like, call it and run it or more audibles?
A mix of both. For me, I liked some stuff where, listen, we had our staples where it didn't matter what they were doing. We knew our plays inside and out. And I would tell, our coaches all the time, when we get those plays, those type of progressions, that it doesn't matter what coverage they play. It's good versus everything.
Right.
A lot of times the explosives come when they take away the first progression and you're allowed to progress and move on in your read. And when there's too many check with me's or too many audibles and those kind of things, you're really just trying to get at this perfect matchup to get just one guy the ball. And so I like a balance of the two. I like in the run game, I really like checking in the run game, make sure we're getting the numbers we want, we're getting the looks that we want to run certain schemes. In the pass game, like man zone checks, I think are important. I think you've got to do those now. But there's some staple plays that, it didn't matter what they were playing. We were going to find a completion. I like those.
All right. A couple of minutes left with our quarterback, Matt Ryan, here inside the locker room. I figure we might go old school and play a little
rapid fire.
All right. You're, as a player, just favorite city to visit as a player.
44233.
Favorite city to visit as a player? San Diego, back in the day.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
What about as a broadcaster, one place you're looking to go to that maybe you played in or just to go back and visit as you call a game?
New Orleans would be kind of cool to call a game down there and see that place from a different perspective, not being yelled at.
Or maybe I will be. I don't know. Sit where I think you sit, where Dave and Wes used to sit. Bring a magnifying glass to see. You're way up there.
Georgia Dome or Mercedes-Benz Stadium?
Oh, this is going to crush people, but Georgia Dome.
It was a weapon.
Georgia Dome.
You couldn't hear in there
when
the crowd was
Plus the
really
way you
on them.
finished that building off, dude.
Yeah,
the way you set that thing out. I got goosebumps just thinking about it right now.
You spiked that ball all the way back to Green Bay.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're so good. Big wide receiver or little wide receiver?
A big wide receiver.
And mine are going to be way more. What's the angriest you ever were in a game?
I know there's that clip out there where you guys were joking about getting set.
Get up and set.
Yeah, I was a little frustrated, but not really angry. Just like get
hurry
done.
up.
I think Ovi Mihaly. You guys remember Ovi Mihaly?
He's coming in next
He
week.
was supposed to be.
He's a
off the show
beauty,
for you.
right?
They
actually buffed him.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Ovi, I mean, he was a great player, but he couldn't get lined up. And it was at least 2-3 times a game. And it was like, dude, you're the fullback. You might have like 3 different spots you have to line up. Ovi would drive me crazy sometimes.
Who had the worst taste in music of any teammates you had?
I don't know. I mean, it's an eclectic, maybe Finn, probably like it was a little too old
All
for
right.
everybody else.
Take it
but-
easy, OAR.
Yeah, that's right. I
I got in the
introduced him
car
to a
with
lot
Matt
of
Ryan
stuff.
one time to go to a game, and he's playing something called OAR. And I was like, what the hell is this?
It was a popular like jam band at the time when
didn't
I
know
was
what
in
it was for a
college.
second.
That's
And
'cause
I
you
got
were
the
old.
bad taste.
Yeah,
Toughest Atlanta Falcon you ever played football with?
Present company excluded. Roddy White. I mean, he was
Man, oh, man.
he was a warrior. Todd McClure.
Yeah.
Todd
Mud
McClure.
Dog.
I mean,
You have to have guys like that.
Yeah,
Harvey
those,
Dahl,
those
maybe?
two. Harvey. I mean, yes, he was a little crazy, but those guys, Roddy and Todd was the quietest, toughest guy, and Roddy was just. I mean, he played through everything. So those would be the two that come to mind.
Better athlete, Johnny or Marshall?
Pass. Cal, the newborn.
The new kid.
There we go.
3 boys. Good work, by the way.
I'm
Producing men.
I'm thinking 5 years in advance. You mentioned Hall of Famers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Cam Newton. You didn't mention Matt Ryan. You're a Hall of Famer. Who gives your Hall of Fame speech?
That's awesome.
Hadn't gotten there yet, but probably my older brother, Mike. He would be the person I would have do it because he was a guy I chased, as a kid, trying to keep up with, and probably form me into the person that I am.
Well, that's great stuff.
Yeah.
We appreciate all of the times you come here. You've been a staple here on The Fan for so many years. I mean, it's your home tomb. You're basically a 6th member of the locker room here. We got plenty of seats in here. But you said you would come back, and we really do appreciate that right before your season gets started. I know you got the family stuff to do, but you're a solid dude on and off the field, on and off the mic, and we don't want anything but good things for you. And we just look forward to having the opportunity the next time we get you in here and just have a little bit of fun.
I look forward to it, man. It'll be, I've got some time during the week now, so it's a little different. I'll come in, hang out with you guys for a bit. It'll be fun.